Oh, hey everyone, hey gamers, hey chat. It's not going to be a long stream. It's even shorter than I hope it will be because the meeting is rescheduled to 6 p.m. not 7 p.m. So I only have about an hour, less than an hour in fact. It is what it is when you work at a 9 to 5 job, where sometimes work hours can just change. I still have some it is what it is left, so I'm gonna use that here. Okay, since there's not much time, let's just get into it. As usual, I'll be replying to people's letters in this Time Wars game. Ooh, new sticker. These are the people whose letter I've replied in the last stream. That new sticker, this one. Sure. Okay, so I'll be replying to 3 letters as usual, and then after replying 3 letters, I'll read a few segments of the books, which is this one, A Brief History of Neoliberalism by David Harvey. So I've read Ha-Joon Chang's 23 Things They Don't Tell You About Capitalism, which is about Ha-Joon Chang is a capitalist economist from South Korea, but he's also very tuned in to the damage that capitalism is causing, which is why he wrote that. And it's about 23 things he lists that is the difference between what people are saying about what capitalism or neoliberal capitalism is doing compared to what they are actually doing. And then there's the second one, is the book I read also about capitalism recently is, I forgot who the author was, but it's Talking to My Daughter, A Brief History of Capitalism, which is a book that goes onto the history of capitalism, how from feudalism we change into capitalism, but it is written in a way that is for a younger audience, so it's easier to read if you want to start somewhere. If you want to understand, if you don't understand what capitalism is, and if your understanding is as woeful as capitalism is when you go to job and make money, which is no, that's not the only thing. Every economic system is doing that. So if you don't understand anything about capitalism, I think you read that one first, because there's a very good entry-level understanding of capitalism. And then maybe Ha-Joon Chang books after that if you still want to know more. And then since I learned more about capitalism from those 2 books, I talk more casual while the iron is hot, or whatever the saying is. I want to go further into a more specific, so it's not just a history of capitalism, but also a history of neoliberal capitalism or neoliberalism, which is what most countries are doing now. They rebrand it into multiple ways. In America, I think the most famous rebrand is Reaganomics, and then in UK there's Thatcherism. In Indonesia currently there's Prabonomics or something like that. So every country has a different rebrand of neoliberalism, but it is neoliberalism. And this is the history of how the political economic system of neoliberalism came about. So that's the introduction to the stream, which is already taking 5 minutes. Hey, thanks. I didn't even read you, even though I click on you. Okay, let's view some people's requests. I'm the one who wrote about unable to enjoy the game. Thanks to you guys, I realized I have anxiety for other things in life and I dealt with them. I can blame my game as usual, though I'm still bad at it. Some games are not as safe consumption. Media like etc. So if they use some of your announcement, things that brings energy and anxiety. Got that. Okay, that's the kind of letter in this game. And the kind of letter that I want to try to answer. Do you think that life can be worth living even if it's spent alone? People always say that like one will come when you least expects it, but in the end that is not necessarily, isn't it? Nothing is guaranteed after all. About books or something. even in that's easy to understand. What to do? My mom, I'm 35 and she wants to control everything in my life. I'm sick of this. Try to speak with her a lot of time about it, but nothing changed. Nothing. I lost a lot because of her. Tired. Some people do eventually have everyone most people eventually have to learn to cut off people in their life with too much of toxic people in their life, and those people came from family that is supposed to nurture protect you. Opinion. But at the end of the day, is you going to live your life and decide Okay. Start doing this. I have like half an hour before my meeting starts, so let's just start. So this is a brief history of neoliberalism by David Harvey. It is first printed on, let's see, first published in 2005. First published in paperback in 2007. So this is from 18 years ago. For a book that is written 18 years ago. It's crazy how this is still the book that everyone point me at when I'm trying to look for more information about neoliberalism itself. You know, that's a good book. Okay, introduction. Future historians may well look upon the years 1978 to 80 as a revolutionary turning point in the world's social and economic history. In 1978, Deng Xiaoping took the first momentous steps towards the liberalization of a communist-ruled economy in a country that accounted for a fifth of the world's population. The path that Deng defined was to transform China in 2 decades from a closed backwater to an open center of capitalist dynamism with sustained growth rates unparalleled in human history. On the other side of the Pacific, and in quite different circumstances, a relatively obscure but now renowned figure named Paul Volcker took command at the US Federal Reserve in July 1979, and within a few months dramatically changed monetary policy. The Fed thereafter took the lead in the fight against inflation no matter what its consequences, particularly as concerned unemployment. Across the Atlantic, Margaret Thatcher had already been elected Prime Minister of Britain in May 1979 with a mandate to curb trade union power and put an end to the miserable inflationary stagnation that had enveloped the country for the preceding decade. During that time, there was two economic systems that the UK used during that time. The first is laissez-faire economics, which is basically just neoliberalism before it was rebranded as neoliberalism. But it was so bad with so many banking crises that happens in every few years, and London at the time was one of the worst city overall. I think England overall is just one of the worst country during that time. They tried to change it into Keynesian, which is basically still capitalism, but at least they tax the rich a little, not all. And because of that, the economy of Britain had a period of growth at that time, but that becomes stagnant after a while because it is still capitalism after all. And then the Arab oil banking crisis happened that caused the economy to go on a downward spiral in UK, and Thatcher used that moment to introduce neoliberalism. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Where was I? Oh yeah, enveloped the country for the preceding decade. Then in 1980s, Ronald Reagan was elected President of the United States, and armed with geniality and personal charisma, set the US on course to revitalize its economy by supporting Volcker's moves at the Fed and adding his own particular plan of policies to curb the power of labor, deregulate industry, agriculture, and resource extraction, and liberate the powers of finance both internally and on the world stage. From the several epicenters, revolutionary impulses seemingly spread and reverberated to remake the world around us in a totally different image. Transformation of this scope and depth do not occur by accident, so it is pertinent to inquire by what means and paths. The new economic configuration, often subsumed under the term globalization, was plucked from the entrails of the old. Volker Reagan, Thatcher, and Deng Xiaoping all took minority arguments that had long been in circulation and made them majoritarian, though in no case without a protracted struggle. Reagan brought to life the minority tradition that stretched back within the Republican Party to very cold water in the early 1960s. Deng saw the rising tide of wealth and influence in Japan, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore, and South Korea and sought to mobilize market socialism instead of central planning to protect and advance the interests of the Chinese state. Volker and Thatcher both plucked from the shadow of relative obscurity a particular doctrine that went under the name of Neoliberalism and transformed it into the central guiding principle of economic thought and management. And it is with this doctrine, its origin, rise, and implication that I am here primarily concerned. Okay, that's a little bit of the history, the introduction. So there's four main perpetrator, four main figures that popularized the use of neoliberalism. The first is Deng Xiaoping from China, which is ironically nowadays becoming the communist of the world. And then there's Volker and Reagan from US. And then there's Thatcher. As I said earlier when I mentioned about history, the Reagan is Reaganomics and Thatcher is Thatcherism, but they are both just neoliberalism. And that is the current political and economic system that we are using. I think you've seen a lot of this in, it was mentioned privatization and deregularization, which affected a lot of things, but the easiest example that you can use as a guiding principle of if your country is using neoliberalism or not is the housing price, the increase between the housing price and the increase of your income on a monthly and yearly basis. If the housing price goes up way further compared to the increase of your income, which is always beneath it much, so it becomes like a Pac-Man mouth, then that means that you are using neoliberalism version of one, privatization, and two, the deregulation. So privatization is when everything become privatized and you can monetize everything. And one of the effects why it affected housing prices is because house was privatized, it become commodified, where people can buy many houses and then use them to make money. It's basically the origin of landlords. And because there is no regulation at all, which is deregulation, this is where there's no rule being applied at all to buying house, except for maybe poor people. So a lot of the rich people that came from the already rich people when it is still feudalism and not before it was capitalism, bought a lot of this house that is being privatized because now it is an asset for them, asset they can buy and use to make more asset and more money, causing the supply to thin and the demand still keep going up. So the price increase and it kept happening year after year after year until no one can no longer afford buying house, and then they make the concept of mortgage after that. So you basically have go into debt just to be able to buy house. And of course, the one where the people who you pay to pay this debt to is the same rich people who are buying the houses in the first place, which is, sure. Okay, let's reply to some more letters. Feel stupid and anxious. In about 2 months, I've spent around $1,300. I know it could have been drugs or something, but I still feel bad. I've always been good with money except now. Decisions that we made. There is not economically responsible. Was because something. Maybe instead of senior to that's my suggestion. That's one letter. Any tips on making friends? I love visual novels a lot and want people to talk with, but it's hard to find people with passion for a niche interest. Doesn't help I'm trans and feel excluded of some spaces. That's... people still do that. seem happy. Answer with the current army of spaces in the internet. It have to be this one of us. I think best way to make friends is the second letter, I think. Similar game where I can actually write back to the letters. Not really. I only know this one. The survey of waiting for an offer after interviews kind of nerve-wracking for me. I think instead of worrying I won't get the opportunity, the thought that interviewers might not like me hits deeper. Irrational, I know. Your solution? Thank you. as long as it did not. Interview to be safe and to this my answer. Okay, let's go further into the introduction. I still have about only 10 minutes. God damn, time flies so fast. Neoliberalism is in the first instance a theory of political economic practices that propose that human well-being can best be advanced by liberating individual entrepreneurial freedoms and skills within an institutional framework characterized by strong private property rights, free markets, and free trade. Fuck the free markets. The role of the state is to create and preserve an institutional framework appropriate to such practices. The state has to guarantee, for example, the quality and integrity of money. It must also set up those military, defense, police, and legal structures and functions required to secure private property rights and to guarantee, by force if need be, the proper functioning of markets. Furthermore, if markets do not exist in areas such as land, water, education, healthcare, social security, or environmental pollution, then they must be created by state action if necessary. But beyond this task, the state should not venture. State interventions in markets once created must be kept to a bare minimum because, according to the theory, the state cannot possibly possess enough information to second-guess market signals or prices, and because powerful interest groups will inevitably distort and bias state interventions, particularly in democracies, for their own benefit. Yeah, state intervention in the market, in the free market, is usually very biased to capitalism. So, to big corporation. For example, if a big enough company is going to go bankrupt, there are many cases where the state intervenes and then help the company actually pay their debt or give them more capital in order for the company to not go bankrupt. Usually the reasoning is because so it does not collapse the country's economics, which is true, but also if you don't want to do that, the problem that is causing it, which is the inequality that is causing those companies to go bankrupt in the first place, should be fixed. But no, what they did is just intervene so that the company doesn't go bankrupt by using the people's money for companies. It's using tax dollar, using tax money. So I think most of us is aware that the reasoning is bullshit, because we want our money to be used for the country, not for the corporates. There has everywhere been an empathetic turn toward neoliberalism in political economy practices and thinking since the 1970s. Deregulation, privatization, and withdrawal of the state from many areas of social provision have been all too common. Almost all states, from those newly minted after the collapse of the Soviet Union to old-style social democracies and welfare states such as New Zealand and Sweden, have embraced, sometimes voluntarily, in other instances in response to coercive pressure. A lot of the European countries, America, UK, EU, tends to pressure other countries in order for them to embrace capitalism, because when they spread this Eurocentrist movement of economic, it helps a lot of the European companies. Like for example, the oil companies is the one that is easily used as examples here, like BP, Shell. It goes everywhere easier when those countries are using the same economic system as they are, and it also helps them exploit the smaller countries like the global south easier if they use the same system as the neoliberalism free market, because that means that these countries will be dependent on the dollar. So the dollar need to stay at a certain price, or their economy will also tank, because their economy is using the same system that is heavily reliant on the economy of the Eurocentrists. Okay, let me just finish this paragraph. Pressure some version of neoliberal theory and adjusted at least some policies and practices accordingly. Post-apartheid South Africa quickly embraced neoliberalism, and even contemporary China, as we shall see, appears to be headed in this direction. Furthermore, the advocates of the neoliberal way now occupy positions of considerable influence in education, the universities, and many think tanks. In the media, in corporate boardrooms and financial institutions, in key institutions, treasury departments, central banks, and also in those international institutions such as the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, the World Bank, and the World Trade Centers (WTO) that regulate global finance and trade. Neoliberalism has in short become hegemonic as a mode of discourse. It has pervasive effects on ways of thought to the point where it has become incorporated into the common sense way many of us interpret, live in, and understand the world. Man, I want to read more. Oh, it's not that long. Okay, let me just finish the introduction then. The process of neoliberalization has, however, entailed much creative destruction, not only of prior institutional framework and power, even challenging traditional form of state sovereignty, but also of division of labor, social relations, welfare provisions, technological mixes, ways of life and thought, reproductive activities, attachment to the land, and habits of the heart. Insofar as neoliberalism values market exchange as an ethic in itself, capable of acting as a guide to all human action and substituting for all previously held ethical beliefs. It emphasizes the significance of contractual relations in the marketplace. It holds that the social good will be maximized by maximizing the reach and frequency of market transactions, and it seeks to bring all human actions into the domain of the market. This requires technologies of information creation and capacities to accumulate, store, transfer, analyze, and use massive database to guide decisions in the global marketplace. Hence, neoliberalism intense interest and pursuit of information technologies, leading some to proclaim the emergence of a new kind of information society. These technologies have compressed the rising density of market transaction in both space and time. They have produced a particularly intensive burst of what I have elsewhere called time-space compression. The greater the geographical range, hence the emphasis of globalization, and the shorter the term of market contracts, the better. This latter preferences parallels Lyotard's famous description of the postmodern condition as one where the contemporary contract supplants permanent institution in the professional, emotional, sexual, cultural, family, and international domains, as well as in political affairs. The cultural consequences of the dominance of such a market ethics are legion, as I earlier showed in the condition of postmodernity. With many general accounts of global transformation and their effect are now available, what is generally missing, and this is the gap this book aims to fill, is the political economic story of where neoliberalization came from and how it proliferated so comprehensively on the world stage. Critical engagement with that story suggests, furthermore, a framework for identifying and constructing alternative political and economic arrangements. I have benefited in recent time from conversation with Gerard Dumenil, Sam Kintin, and Leo Panitz. I have more long-standing depth in Marcel Milosi, Giovanni Ayrai, Aligi, Patrick Bond, Cindy Katz, Neil Smith, Petra Ullman, Maria Kaika, and Eric Swinjedo. I'm sure I'm butchering all those names. A conference on neoliberalism sponsored by the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation in Berlin in November 2001 first sparked my interest in this topic. I thank the provost at the CUNY Graduate Center, Bill Kelly, and my colleagues and students primarily, but not exclusively, in the anthropology program for their interest and support. I absolve everyone, of course, from my responsibility for the result. And then the book goes to chapter 1. Freedom is just another word. Yeah, even on the introduction, you can already see that the book is going to be on the talk about neoliberalism, where it came from, who it came from, and what is its purpose and how it is being practiced. I think the book will go into more detail, and that means Milton will be there somewhere mentioned, of course, most likely, because he's the father of individualism or something about capitalism bad. Yeah, I can't wait to dive further into the book, but for now I need to prepare to join the meeting, and that's it for me for now. It's a short stream. I still want to reply to more letters, but unfortunately I don't have the time. You know what, I'll stream something else, either tomorrow or Saturday. In the meantime, that's it for me. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time.